floodgate, and we're about to report the critical importance of some machineries in the engine room. So the members are Polio Paul Cedric, Canonigo Wendell, Marfa Marvin, Timoteo John Kendrick, Ianto Brian, Padayugdog Francis Chong. So these are the machinery critical machinery equipments inside the engine room. So first off is the marine boiler.
Critical importance. Boilers are one of the essential equipments on board ships. Its purpose is to provide heating to the main diesel propulsion engine, to the bunker FO tanks, to make it less viscous for transfer purposes as well as easy ignition. During that time, boilers were used to perform all the major functions that propulsion and power generating systems currently do. With the development of technology, various types of machines perform important tasks on ships. However, an advanced boiler is still an important part of the engine power plant and cargo operations. Considering their functionality, the materials used to manufacture the boilers should be such that they can withstand immense steam pressure and extreme temperatures with minimal damage to the surroundings. Generally, carbon steel is used to construct pressure vessels, which are constructed by the open stove, electric or pneumatic processes. Marine boiler spare parts: flame detector, auxiliary and primary low water cutoff switches, high pressure, high temperature cutoff switch, pressure control device, water level device, safety relief valves, fuel safety shutoff valves, high and low gas pressure switches, combustion air switch, gas regulator, igniter parts, gaskets, boiler level, sight glass and sight glass packing, air compressor. The critical importance of this air compressor is the main engine marine air compressor acts as the power source for starting primary and auxiliary engines. The main marine air compressor stores pressurized air, so it can be released when the engine starts. This compressor is typically at high capacity since starting the primary and auxiliary engines requires a significant amount of power. Ship air compressor can serve multiple functions depending on their locations on board. Marine air compressors are generally divided into four categories: main, deck, emergency, and topping up. Deck marine air compressor. Deck marine air compressors are small and portable for maximum mobility. This mobility allows them to serve a variety of functions on the deck, such as operating power tools when making small repairs or completing cleaning and sanitation-related tasks. In case of emergencies on deck, such as fire, a deck marine air compressor can help operate a fire pump. Responding quickly to emergencies on a ship is crucial, as they could compromise the safety of the ship and the people on board. Emergency marine air compressor provide a backup power source in case of emergency. In a potential power failure, this compressor can provide the power necessary to operate the primary and auxiliary engines. Having at least one emergency air compressor on board is crucial to maintaining the ship function. Topping up marine air compressor. Compensate for any existing or potential leaks in a system. They are connected to devices that monitor the current pressure with the system. If this pressure dips below a specified level, a topping up marine compressor can restore the pressure to the desired level. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts: cylinder liner, piston rod, connecting rod, big end bearing and main bearing, driving motor, crankshaft, frame and crankcase, oil pump, water pump, suction and discharge valve, suction filter, intercoolers.
Refrigeration. Ship refrigeration system plays a vital part on ships, carrying refrigerated cargo and victuals for the crew or passengers. Refrigeration prevents any damage to the cargo or decay of perishable foods like growth of microorganisms, oxidation, fermentation, and drying out of the cargo. The temperature of the sometimes sensitive cargo is controlled by the ship's refrigeration plant, as the main purpose of the vessel carrying refrigerated cargo is to ensure the cargo is transported in a good and healthy condition. It is of uttermost importance that the refrigeration system works perfectly at all times. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts. Um, H. Expansion device, evaporator, condenser, heat, compressor. Generator. Critical importance of a generator. A generator on a ship is known as the heart of a ship. It is the lifeline which supports each and every connection function of the ship. Generator of the ship requires special care, attention, and maintenance for its effective and economic run. Moreover, when it comes to operating a generator on a ship, it's a total different ballgame. Unlike the conventional generators that we use on land, a ship generator requires a special procedure for starting and stopping it. Though not a very complex one, the process demands a step-by-step system to be followed. Missing even a single step might lead to a failure in starting or stopping the generator and can even lead to blackout, a situation which everyone on the ship tries their best to stay away from. In this article, we bring you to an accurate step-by-step procedure for starting and stopping a generator on the ship. Allowable minimum required of spare parts: engine, alternator, fuel system, control panel, battery charger, voltage regulator, mainframe or steel, lubrication system, diesel generator sets, natural gas generator sets, portable generator sets, marine generator sets, diesel engines, natural gas engines, marine engines, load banks, transfer switches, radiators, trailer, enclosure, natural gas generator sets, portable generator sets, marine generator sets.
Turbocharger. Critical importance. Basically, a turbocharger is connected to an engine to give it more power. This allows smaller engines to put out more horsepower and torque than their ordinary would. Turbochargers utilize the engine's hot expelled air to spin the compressor's wheel and take it outside air. This reduces the amount of waste produces. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts. Cartridge, fully assembly unbalanced turbocharger cores, vacuum actuators, and pneumatic actuators. Electronic actuators, electric serves drives. Turbochargers repair kits, spare parts kit sets for quick minor repair. Shop on wheels turbocharger shafts with turbine rotors. Compressor wheels turbocharger compressors wheels. VNT nozzle rings with nozzle for VNT turbochargers. VNT geometry controls nodes. Nozzle ring housing for VNT geometry control elements, bearing housings, carriage housings, third core housings, back plates, turbocharger, course plate from compressor side, heat shields, turbocharger, core heat shields, gasket kits, turbocharger, gasket kit seats, VNT gasket, internal gasket for VNT turbochargers. Turbine housings, the housings of the turbocharger's hot sections for compressor. Housing of the turbocharger cold section part. Actuator sensors, pressure sensors, position sensors. Electronic actuators, parts of electric motor shells, gears of turbochargers, servo drives. Incinerator. Incinerator is an important machinery on board which reduces the cost of waste disposal for ships. It is used to burn solid and liquid waste produced on ships during normal operations and is also important for reducing overall waste from ships. Whether incineration is an appropriate means of managing waste has been the subject of much debate in this country. A major aspect of the debate is the potential risk to human health that might result from the emissions of pollutants generated by the incineration process. Some of those pollutants have been found to cause various adverse health effects, although such effects have generally been observed at much higher ambient concentrations than those actually produced by emissions from an incineration facility. Questions persist about the possible effects of smaller amount of pollutants from incineration facilities, especially when they are combined with a mix of pollutants emitted from other sources. Next. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts. 1 year spare parts package for oil-fired versions. 1 year spare parts package for gas-fired versions. 1 year spare parts package for LPG fired versions. 1 year burner parts package for oil fired versions. 1 year burner parts package for gas fired versions. 1 year burner parts package for LPG fired versions. Electrodes, leads, Siemens control box, nozzle gun, pump coil, piping kit, ignition transformer, diffuser, electrodes, motor, blast tube, nozzle holder, pump coupling, photocell, fire rope, heavy duty thermocouple, tiger loop, max 15 oil fire burner, max 25 oil fired burner, max 8 oil fire burner, max gas 250 Gs fired burner.
So next machinery is the main engine. Critical importance. Main or propulsion engines are used to turn the ship's propeller and move the ship through the water. They typically burn diesel oil or heavy fuel oil and may be able to switch between the two. There are many propulsion arrangements for motor vessels, some including multiple engines, propellers, and gearbox. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts. Spares. Number 1. Main bearings or shells for one bearing of each size and type fitted, complete with shims, bolts, and nuts. Minimum 1. Reason. Critical spare as failure on one of the units may also render the engine inoperable and continue to operate with damaged bearings may also cause permanent failure of crankshaft and moving parts, consequential damages like CC explosion, etc. Second part is main thrust block, one set. Reason, pads for one phase of mutual type thrust block or inner and outer race with rollers where roller thrust bearings are fitted. Failure and TB could lead to seizure of the shaft which can lead to the loss of propulsion power. Third spares, cylinder liner complete with joint rings and gasket, one full set. Reason, Cylinder liner complete set shall always be ready to go. A cylinder liner crack, seizure, leaky or rings, etc. are troubles which usually occur on the engines, and it is always desirable to keep as many number as possible, but at least one full set is mandatory. Four set of four spares cylinder head assembly, one full set. Cylinder cover complete with bulbs, joints, rings, and gasket. For engines without covers, the respective valves for one cylinder unit, cylinder covers, studs or bolts with nuts as applicable for one cylinder. Valve number so 5. The there's the valves. Exhaust valves complete with casing, sets, springs, and other fittings for one cylinder. Two sets. Reason exhaust valves are usually carried minimum two sets ready to go, as the chances of failure on fuel system will finally causes issue on exhaust valves. Inadequate access to the exhaust valves while in port and regular visual inspection is not always viable, hence it is always desirable to keep two sets ready to go. Air inlet valves, complete with casings, sets, springs, and other fittings for one cylinder, one set. As the inlet valve doesn't involve higher temperature as the exhaust, one set is minimum is recommended. Starting air valve complete with casing set, spring and other fittings. One set. Starting air valve may get stuck or develop leak, but these valves can be overhauled on board while at sea. Hence one set is recommended. Relief valve complete one set. Cylinder relief valve shall be carried as leaky valve may cause delay in replacing, and if it's available ready, this can be changed quickly. Fuel injection valves of each size and type fitted, complete with all fittings for one engine. One set. Depends on the number of units on the engine. It is always desirable to keep at least the number required to keep the valves ready for two units. So next machinery is a freshwater generator. Critical importance. Freshwater generator or FWG converts seawater or salt water to freshwater. Freshwater generator are common sight on many marine vessels as it allows them to generate the fresh water they need wells at sea. The process of generating fresh water is achieved via distillation. There are three main methods employed for generating fresh water from seawater. These are boiling, evaporating, and reverse osmosis. Most marine vessels and industrial plants produce fresh water using either evaporators or RO plants. Large distillation plants may be connected to the steam circuit of a thermal power station. The steam is issued to evaporate seawater. The 3D model in the Saviri database is based upon a low pressure flash evaporator that uses plate type heat exchangers. But freshwater generators that use shell and tube type heat exchangers are also available. Allowable minimum required number of spare parts. Item, parts name, heater, separator shell, condenser, distillate pump, water ejector for brine, water ejector for air, ejector fan, pump, salinity indicator, vacuum brake valve, salinity cell, solenoid valve, swing cheek valve, feed water orifice, relief valve, feeder, stop valve, spring loaded valve, water meter, water level glass, compound gauge, vacuum gauge, pressure gauge, thermometer, air outlet cock, test cock, mesh separator.
So steering gear. So this is the so critical importance of steering gear is the equipment provided on ships to turn the ship to left port side or to right starboard side. So while in motion during sailing, the steering gear works only when the ship is in motion and does not work when the ship is stationary. So ang ships are to be provided with an efficient main steering gear and auxiliary steering gear, and except for very small ships, so the steering gear should be power operated. So manually operated mechanical steering gears were in use during sailing days. So sailors with strong body were required to operate the steering gears. Next, so allowable minimum required number of spare parts. So first is the rotary vane type. So internal cells, gland cells, truss bearing cover cells, banded cells, liner. So cylinder type. So pistons, cells, V packings or rings. So pumps. So oil cells, ball bearings, couplings, flexible elements, filter equipment, packaging, tank cover cells, control valves, solenoid valves, so proximity sensors, and e-motors. So electrical system, phase failure relay contractors, transformators, or counters, alarm boards, so radar indicators, and radar stack. So that's all.
Steam turbine. Critical importance. On ships, the steam turbine can also be used as a direct propulsion plant, in which the turbine shaft is connected to propeller shaft of the ship. Since the speed will be in 1000 rpm, reduction gear and reduction system are used to get a drop in propeller rpm. The propelling plant of the ship can be driven by steam turbine through a slow-speed motor. The turbine generator directly supplies power to these slow-speed motors which are connected to the propeller shaft of the ship. So allowable minimum required number of spare parts. List of minimum recommended spare parts of auxiliary steam turbines driving electric generators for essential service of ship for unrestricted service. Item, turbine shaft, spare part, carbon sealing rings were fitted with spring for each size and sealing rings type of gland for one turbine. Number recommended, one set. Number two, filters. Strainer baskets or inserts for filters of special design of each type and size. Number recommended, one set. Notes, the availability of other spare parts should be specially considered and decided upon by the owner. 2. It is assumed that the crew has onboard the necessary tools and equipment. 3. When the recommended spares are utilized, it is recommended that new spares are supplied as soon as possible. Where the number of generator of adequate capacity fitted for essential service exceeds the required number, spare parts may be omitted.